Hello again, friends. Today is 12/29/2021, and today is Odin Project Vlog Day 26. And we are completing um, exercise number 6, Flex Layout. And that's what I have highlighted here. So we're nearing the end of the completion here. We have Flex Layout 2, number 7, and then we will be completing this module and moving on to the project. So Flex Layout today was good for me. Um, I I watched, not to tangent too much, but my curated YouTube feed gave me a video to recommend me watch, and it was actually perfect timing. I'm sure it was a God thing, but for those of you that are members of the faith. But anyway, it was four troubleshooting steps basically to troubleshooting code and troubleshooting problems. Um, because after yesterday's modal fiasco, I took it a little harder on myself than I should have as far as not being able to figure it out. And so this video just popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I watched it, and he broke it down. The guy broke it down into basically 4 steps. So understanding the problem, which he equated that to like writing it out on paper, which is kind of like what we already have, guys, because we have the text of the Readme, what we need to do, and then the second step was breaking it down into chunks, and then working and coding each chunk individually. So basically, break it down into bite-sized chunks. Like for instance, and I'll talk about this in this one, but like if you have a header, start from the top, move your way down. So start at the header, work the solution for the header until you get it the way it needs to be. Then go to the body or the middle element, and then go to the footer, and then complete the footer, and work it in chunks like that, and execute your code and debug it as you go along, so that you don't have. Basically, it takes the big elephant and you're eating a ear at a time, as they say. So the project is much more manageable, and it keeps things cleaner too. Because when you do debug and you run across a problem, you're likely to find it faster because you know that, hey, this block of code that I just changed is where the problem's at. Now I just gotta syntactically go through, or methodologically go through and find out what the actual issue is. So without further ado, let's get into Flex Layout. With that said, that's kind of how I handled this one, and I did really well. So as always, we're going to read the README. Flexbox is useful for laying out entire pages as well as the smaller components we've already been working with. For this exercise, we're leaving you with a little more work to do, with some things you may not have encountered yet. It's perfectly acceptable to Google things you're unsure of. Hints: you may want to search something like CSS remove list bullets. We've done this for you in the previous examples, but not here. Yay, learning! We've added a height of 100 VH, which, not gonna lie, I didn't know what that was, to the body. This makes the body exactly the same height as the viewport, which is your screen. To stick the footer to the bottom, you'll need to use flex and change the direction to column. Desired outcome. Checks. The header is at the top of the page, the footer is at the bottom, and they stay in place if you resize your screen. The header and the footer have padding. The links in the header and footer are pushed to either side. There is space between the links in the header and footer. The footer has a light gray background, pound, whatever that is, 6 E's. Yeah. The logo, input, and buttons are centered in the screen. The buttons have an appropriate amount of padding, and there is space between the logo, input, and buttons. So as always, we're going to peruse the index.html file, so we kind of have an idea what we're working with. So the desired outcome is this. This is what they want you to end up with. So basically, the Odin, it's like a search. Basically, it's like Google search, but Odin Project. You got your search box in the middle. Do a thing. Do the other thing button. Hyperlinks, 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 hyperlinks. So this will be a header. This will be a footer, gray with a gray background. This is centered. Even space evenly between all this. Space in between padding. Even padding on the buttons, and header will be shove to the right, shove to the left, footer, shove to the left, shove to the right, and so there's that. So here's your class header, and there's your left links, and then it's just a references to Google. There's a content class, so this consists of your logo, which is the Oden logo, the input search box, and the buttons. So there, if you recall, to do the thing and do the other thing, there's 2 buttons, and that consists of the content. And then you have a class footer, and that's the left links, Google, Google, right links, Google, Google. So basically, the footer has left links and right links, and the header has left links and right links, and the center is content with an image source, an internal, and a sub child class input and text and buttons. So going over to the styles, I worked this over the course of a day and a half. That's why I didn't upload last night, because I was like 90% done here, and I didn't want to put out a half-baked video. So most of this I did yesterday. So bear with me as I try to remember it and explain it at the same time. So we start up here with the body. All this here, the font family, overflow, margin, and height, were all there by default. I added display flex and flex direction of column. So I did that mainly because I Googled it, to be honest with you. So what I did was I found a cool article on Google, and it ended up taking me to MDN here. And I was basically trying to create a sticky footer. And long story short, to get this to work, the wrapper is what they're calling it, but we're going to call it, in our example, we're calling it, we don't really have a wrapper, we have the body, because the body is what encapsulates the entire viewport. In this example, we don't have an additional wrapper to work with, so I used the body. So in my solution, I use flex here, and then column, as I just said, because it's here. Display flex, flex direction column is, and you do that so that you can get things to move up and down. Unfortunately, I did not take a picture. I forgot to take the screen grab before I started the project. I thought I did it, and I actually didn't, so I apologize. But here's what it ended up looking like. So if you do F12 for tools, you'll see here, there's the body. It's one big flex container, so that's that. Image has a width of 600 pixels. We did not do anything with this differently, or I didn't anyway. And then going down to button, I believe, yeah, all I did on button is I added the padding of 8 pixels. Again, the numbers are arbitrary. I just kept just kind of like numbers that we've been using throughout these exercises just because it made sense. The only important thing to remember is when you guys are doing these exercises is if it doesn't say actual numbers like it does it on here, it just says there's padding. Well, make sure if you use 8 here, you're using 8 everywhere else. Otherwise, the solution won't look right because it'll be unbalanced. So I put 8 pixels of padding there because the button has, right here, button has an appropriate amount of padding. Going down to input, I did not do anything with input. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I didn't do anything with input. At least I don't think so. Anyway, yeah, I don't think so. So here's the header. I'm pretty sure this so yeah, that's why it's green. So this on down was all added. So this wasn't there at all. So I created a header selector. Sorry, I'm trying to use the right words here. And as usual, we're gonna make it sorry, this tip tool's getting in the way. Display flex, justify content, space between, inline item center. That at this point that should be pretty standard for you guys. That is basically creating a flex box and a flex container, and you're telling in this instance, we're going to have space between, so we're going to shove contents to the right and to the left, and the line item center will bring things in alignment vertically. So the centering will come here. So if you see here, here is the, if I can get it moused right, so there is the header. So the vertical is your alignment, and then the horizontal is the justify contents space between. So that's how you get it like that. And then I added margin and padding, margin of 16 pixels and padding at 8. Again, because padding at 8 is because that's what we had above in our button. And then margin is because somewhere in here, okay, so headers at the top of the page and footers at the bottom, and they stay in place. Header and footer have, header and footer have padding. Okay, so that's where that came from, the 8 again. And margin was 16 pixels because I believe it said there's space between the links in the header and the footer. So I used 16, again, just a magic number, and I stuck with it. So I put 16 pixels of margin around the header. So margin, as you recall, is, in this instance, is that yellow box around the outside of my header. That's your margin. And the same thing down here. There, if you were to look at it, you would see div footer, and there's 16 pixels of margin there. This is duplicated a little bit out there. I don't want to get ahead of myself because the footer we did have to treat a little bit special in order to get it down there. We'd never worked with footers before, so. And going to footers now, we have display flex again, align set item center, again just like last time, and justify content space between. So I actually spent a lot of time on the footer, and then I tried doing it on my own, and I gave up, and I went to Google, and that's where I found this sticky footer, which worked out really well. So in the sticky footer, what it has you do is, after you do this, you do your margin again, because like I already explained, we need 16 pixels of margin around the footer container to match the header, because that's what it said to do in the instructions. And then padding, same thing. Flex shrink is 0. Now this came from the how-to here, the help file. Flex shrink is 0. Adding this to the footer, what it does is it causes everything to let's bring it up here. It causes it not to shrink. So shrink 0 means do not shrink. So what it does is every time you resize it, show you an example here. See how I'm resizing it, and the footer and the header both, but they're both following me with my mouse. That's what you want it to do. So, and then if I go up, I don't know if this part's correct, but I do, you can see I do lose my footer when I go bleed into the content div. So I don't know if that's right. We'll find out when we go to the solution. But that's essentially what it does. So flex 0 does not allow it to shrink. Flex shrink does not allow it to shrink. Shrink down to nothing, so it doesn't collapse basically. So it follows. It follows you wherever you go and doesn't collapse down to nothing. So basically the content here, the content div cannot override and crush the footer, if that makes sense. And then the background color is simply right here. It says the footer has a light gray background of the pound and then 6 E's. So you just put that in there, background color. Here's our content div selector. Again, we're doing a flex, and we're going to align the item center, because in here it says the let's see, the logo, input, and buttons are centered in the screen. So there you go. Line item center, justify content center, display flex. So we made it a container. Flex direction column and flex grow 1. That also came from the MDN article, because in order for flex to work, you have to put, see how they have it for the header and the footer. Excuse me. They have it for the header and the footer here for flex grow 1, or excuse me, the body. their page body is going to be the same as our content. So flex grow is 1 because we actually have something called content. Our content class here is basically all that in the middle. So the flex grow 1 will cause it to grow at 1 times the rate of everything else. So that gives it the behavior where it's going to move around, as we already seen with the resizing. So as you do this, see, it allows it to move around, allows it to grow and shrink, except it won't shrink any farther than, see, I actually can't, it won't even let me collapse it. So again, I'm not sure this is exactly correct, but it works. It did solve. Like I said, I got to where I felt it was 100% done. And then left links, right links, you see how I went ahead and excuse me, I'm sorry about that. I went ahead and added the left links and right links together as flex. Margin and padding are 0, and this, if you guys remember, this zeroes out the default. I can't show you because I don't have it anymore, but if you remember, the default F12, this sucker, the default list items have a padding and a margin here on the left side, so you have to get rid of that on each of them. So what I did was, smartly, I created left links and right. I called left links and right links, which are all these and all these. So all these guys here and all these guys here, and I told it to get rid of that padding and get rid of that margin, and gap is 16 because, as you remember up here, or did it say in here, there is a space. Where is it? Yeah, there's space between the links and the header and the footer. So I just, again, magically use 16 pixels. You guys can use whatever you want. And that gap is this right here. So that'd be the gap in between the space in between the links. So I made it 16 so they all stay the same, and it looks good. And then this here, I Googled this. So I can already tell you this because I already looked at the solution in preparation for the video. But this is not what they use, but this gets the job done. So what this does is list-style-type : none. It's used to construct the default content of the item's marker. So if you say none, it will literally take away the bullet points that are in unordered lists by default. So by default, again, I didn't take a picture, so I didn't see it. You guys can't see it, but there was bullet points before each one of these, and this was the part where you had to do this part right here. You may want to search something like CSS remove list bullets, which is exactly what I did actually, and that's how I found that. And I didn't keep the article up, doesn't really matter, but we've done this for you in previous examples, but now here, yay for learning. So this does it. So this actually gets rid of it. So this is one way to do it. If you Googled it, you found that, there's another way too, and we'll go over that now. So here's the solutions file. I'm just going to start with that since we just talked about it. So they have left and right, just like I had, but they just called it different. So actually, I'm going to stick it over here so we can, there we go, do a side-by-side comparison. They have they flexed it, they centered it, and they gapped it. So see, they didn't put the selector type none in there. They went up here and they put it in the UL, which is kind of the same thing. It's going to do the same thing, but they wait, no, I'm sorry, this is the wrong solution. Hang on, guys, got this so jacked up. Sorry about that. Just disregard all that right there. Sorry, it's going to be a long video. Where's my solution? Solution 6. There we go. There we go. I knew something wasn't adding up. Okay. So, try this again. Alright, so there we go. So they have the UL. There we go. List style is none. So basically, oh, come on. All right. So list style type, list style, they're the shorthand for setting list style type, list style position, and list style image. So essentially about the same value declaration. Excuse me. It's about the same declaration. Um, you could probably find both on Google, and all they did is put it under the unordered list. So basically, they didn't create in their solution. They didn't create a left links and they didn't use left links and right links like I did. I didn't create them. They were already in the HTML. See, I just called them and used them. They were already there. I didn't touch the HTML file, by the way, which you don't in this solution. So that's why I'm not going to show you the HTML because it's exactly the same. This is self-explanatory. So got your gap. You're clearing out your margin and padding. There's your footer. They just put the background color in there to get the self-check to work right here. And I have a lot in my footer. So basically, what they did was they had an individual setting that called out the background color for the footer, and then for the header and the footer, they combined the flex justify content space between and padding is 16 pixels, which essentially is this. It's just this looks prettier. See, there's your display. Stupid toolbar. Flex, align item center, space between, margin 16 pixels. They didn't have the flex shrink in there like I had though. And then they did mess with the at the A anchor tag. I did not in mine, as you can see. I did not have. In fact, that's not in there anywhere. So they added that. Not entirely sure why. Maybe it has to do with the background color, maybe. And then content is flex 1. I had flex grow 1, so a little bit different there. That's flex direction column. So flex direction column, center flex. So basically the same thing, except I have flex grow again. I went with the solution from the MDM. Or MDM, the MDN, and they went with that. Just the flexing of 1. If you recall that's just the definition of flex grow 1, 0, and then I think auto or 0 for the bases. So and I just called out grow specifically. So honestly, these things do basically the same exact thing. Comment in the go ahead and put it in the comments if I'm wrong on that. Button padding. So here's they added the button padding, kind of like I did up here. Up here, button padding. I just didn't add the 16 pixels on the opposite side or the adjacent side. And body is display flex and flex direction column, which essentially is what I have here. Yep, display flex and flex direction column. So really the only difference is the they prettied up the header and footer and combining a few things, and then they did a few things with the anchor tag that I didn't do. And honestly, I'm not going to make this video any longer. It's already 23 minutes. So comment below if you got to this part and you want to contribute on why they did that. I didn't look that up. I don't really find that super important because it's just the color and decoration. So maybe that's, I didn't see that in the, honestly I don't see that in the self-check, so I'm not really sure. So comment below if you know. Otherwise we'll just move on. And that actually ends the, sorry this is my longest video so far, but this has been the biggest exercise out of all these so far. So I wanted to take my time and thoroughly describe it to you guys. So with that said, please like, share, and subscribe if you would. My channel's growing and you guys are contributing in the comments, and that's lovely to see, and I love the enthusiasm. And I hope you learned something today and came along for the ride and had some fun at the same time here. And next time we'll be finishing up with Flex Layout 2, which will be the last one, and then we're done with this section. So, and we'll be moving on to a big project. So, with that said, I will probably put a video out maybe tomorrow night. Will depend. It depends on how big this Flex Layout is. I've been spacing these out and giving myself more time. So I haven't been doing lately. I haven't been since the holidays consistent with daily uploads because he's just been meteor, so to speak. So, but as soon as I can get one done without feeling rushed, I'll put a video out. So, thank you guys so much for being involved and being so encouraging. And so, until next time, see ya.